and good afternoon if you're on the other side of the pond, everyone. Welcome to our today's episode of Tuesday Night Smite. This already gets a great start, right? Today's going to be episode 7. We're going to talk about Dreamhack, more specifically a Dreamhack preview. And we are also going to have a giveaway, as I'm sure you've heard on Reddit. It's probably why you're here, if you are here. Yeah, so I'm going to be your host for today. My name is Robbie Dog. Joining me are the two guys that you can see on your screen, Psycho and Sabo. So yeah, Dreamhack is happening, guys. Are you excited? Psycho.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, good. Sabo,
I'm
you
excited.
Yeah, good.
I'm about as excited.
Yeah, you have a lot of things to be excited about, I'm sure, Sabo.
Well,
Because-
see, it's not just that the NA teams are not favored in any of their matches, but I also have to be up at 4:30 my time just to watch the matches.
So you gotta get up. You gotta get up at 4:30, and then watch NA go out 2-0. It's gotta be worth it.
We have that every year with Smite World Championships. Like, you
Yeah.
get this stuff in one time.
Like, we have to take a day off on Monday to actually watch the finals of the World Championships. Just think about that. If we want to watch them
Basically,
live.
that's what happened.
Well, don't worry about it. You won't have to this year. There'll be 2 NA teams, not 2 EU teams.
Yeah, we'll see. So good. Can someone mention what teams are even there at DreamHack Valencia? Just for a start, for everyone who's not caught up on this topic yet, which teams are attending? Sabo or Psycho?
Yeah, so we have 8 teams in total at Dreamhack, and in order of standing, we have Dignitas at first place, then Space Station, Obey, Trifecta, NRG, Luminosity, Rival, and the Latin American team Black Dragons.
Yeah, and so that
So
is
we have
the
four-
that is
we
the
have 4
order.
EU and 1 Latin.
Yeah, that is the order in which they're seated in, right? First place is first from EU, then first from NA, and then basically all the way down until we get to the odd one out, the LATAM team, Black Dragons. And so the interesting, kind of the main topic we can dive into are really the matchups that are going to be happening, and we'll get a chance to talk about the teams that will be playing in these matchups as well. When talking about these matchups, obviously. So, if we take a quick look at the bracket, we will see that the first quarterfinals match that we're going to have, or at least the first one in the bracket, is going to be Dignitas against Black Dragons. So, what are we expecting from that match, and what about the teams that are there?
Well, I don't think that a whole lot of people expect Black Dragons to win this set, honestly. I think a game is realistic. I'm taking a game is realistic because this is the team that beat or took a game off of Eager at the spring finals in Atlanta. So, and it's the exact same roster: Kills, Oh Shit, Non, Marcel's, P-Bay. You know, they're coming in with experience on the international stage. This is also the team that took Allegiance down at the World Championships, or at least a game at the World Championships this past year. So
No,
this roster has.
that was Lich, wasn't it?
Oh, what? Oh, yeah. This is Ints. This is not Lich. This is Ints. My bad. Or INTZ, whatever you want to call it. But yeah. So they have plenty of experience on the international stage, and so they're not coming in down on themselves, right. I mean, they have taken games off at Eager. They have they have performed on the international stage plenty of times. So
Yeah.
a game, it's a realistic expectation for this. I don't think anybody will be surprised if they do take a game. I think people will be more surprised if they actually win the set. So
Yeah, them winning the set would be a massive upset, I think. But taking a game is also already gonna be a pretty big upset, if I guess you can call it. Although it wouldn't really have an influence, right? But I don't think many people are expecting them to find a whole lot of success here. Just looking at how Dig has looked in the split and how little success overall we've seen coming out of the Latin America region or the Brazilian region, right?
Yeah, this match is basically what many think is the worst team at DreamHack against the possibly best team in the world. So I think taking the game would be a success for Black Dragons. And also just going back to to them at Worlds as INTZ, they actually kept most of their roster and just switched roles. And the only player who left was Sakamoto, and he was replaced by Oship. Oship was actually, I think, in Season 3, the top ranked player for a while. And yeah, they just switched roles and yeah.
The top ranked player in LATAM or just overall?
Now in Season 3, he was the top ranked player overall.
Oh, it's pretty impressive, honestly. Because, well, to be fair, we've seen players be at the top of ranked that you wouldn't really have considered to be the best player in the world at that certain point in time, right? Who am I thinking of right now? I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, right now it's NA players, so you really can't make that statement.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good example.
are our viewers getting a good dose of what I have to put up from week to week?
Yeah, I guess so. Hey, there might be some NA people also there. So, I think everyone from NA is used to being dissed by EU by now, right? Or are you not used to it yet?
I mean, how can you get used to something when you were top of the world, top of the game for 2.5 seasons? Really, your success, the EU success is recent. It's not like it's prolonged. You've been on top, like since the spring finals. Y'all can make that claim that EU's so much better, but for the 2.5 seasons prior to that, for the 3 seasons prior to that, NA was on top. All right, so
Wait,
this is
Yeah. Well, as long as you don't consider energy to actually be a part of EU, yeah. Otherwise, EU's always been at the top since season 2.
Yeah, didn't EU also win the launch tournament? So basically 3 out of 4
Yeah.
worlds.
Yeah. See, EU has always been better. No, but to get back on topic of it and stop hating on NA. Dick, Black Dragons. What do we have to say about either of those teams? Do we even have anything to say about Black Dragon?
it should be fun to watch at the very least. I mean, Dignitas should be favored, of course. They're top EU team. They're the top team in the tournament, and the Black Dragons aren't necessarily. We haven't gotten to see a whole lot of the Black Dragons recently. But their LAN experience, their trips to Worlds, their games at the Spring Masters, they have enough experience to be able to at least compete with Dignitas. But talent-wise, I don't know if they're there yet. Just from experience watching the other leagues like the Chinese or the Southeast Asian Invitational, the Oceania Finals. The meta is not the same, and sometimes that could lead to these SPL teams not familiar with what these Latin teams, what the Brazil teams want to do as far as picks and bans, as far as in-game strategies. So that could lead a little bit in the favor of Black Dragons, but seeing Dignitas perform throughout the summer, their only real hiccup was against Obey in week 5. I'd like to see Black Dragons take a game. Like I said, it's something that's possible, but I don't think that they will. I think Dignitas is just going to be too strong.
I actually had I took a while to watch the way Black Dragons got here, the Dreamhack, and I believe they actually 3-0'd Licked, and they had pretty standard SPL picks right now. But I noticed Oship playing Fenrir. So maybe that will be something to look out for. Maybe ban it out if you don't want him setting his team up.
Yeah, it's just a question of whether you can really afford to waste a ban on Venvir, right? But if he's really good with it, and I'm sure I'm sure that Dig's gonna have done some research more than we've done ourselves about this team. That if he's really good with it, I think Dig's gonna ban it still. If he's making it ban worthy, basically. But before I really see them play, and I have to admit I haven't watched the same thing you've watched apparently. But before I really see them play, I'm not gonna make a prediction as to whether it's gonna be ban worthy, right? Yeah.
Is that a cat we're hearing?
Yeah, it is. I can't shut her up, so I could quickly go and let her out if you guys want to take over for a minute. So
Gotta take care of Ellsworth.
Just talk about Dig, please, until I'm
Austin
back.
Powers. But yeah, Dignitas. What can we say? Psycho. I mean, the matchup is clearly in their favor. Just look at the lanes. Variety versus kills. T-Bay and Marcel versus Arax. I wanted to say Araxia, but Arkle and Trix Tank. I don't know how they match up well enough to be able to take the set, and so it's okay.
Yes, as far as I know, Marcel's was actually the mid laner for INTZ before they went to Black Dragons, and he plays more of those magical ADCs. So that will be maybe something to watch out for in the dual lane.
Is he the guy that you're looking for on Black Dragons, that if he has a big game or a big set that they could possibly win the set, or is that even if he has a amazing set, is that just too far out of the realm of possibility? Because it is only a 3-game set. Let's remember that. This best of 3, if it ends up being tied 1-1, anything can happen. But who is it? Marcel's on this team that has to have the big game or the big set for them to be able to move on.
Yeah, I'm looking at Marcellus or Oship. But then again, when we look at who they're against in lane or in their role, I don't think the other player would have to have a rather bad performance to allow Oship or Marcellus to carry the game.
Well, you bring up the other player. I mean, we know Cuvo Fred has had some, I don't want to call it LAN issues or LAN jitters, but doesn't exactly play as good as he does online as he when he's on at LAN. And so, and there's plenty of examples of that in this tournament, of the whole LAN jitters in the tournament. We'll talk about them later, but Lannister, Homie Faye has these jitters as well. So, Cuvo Fred at times on the LAN at these big stage, big events, sometimes doesn't perform as well as you expect him to. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I want to take a look at another player on Dignitas. We've seen what Variety did at Worlds last year at LAN.
Yeah. I think that is something worth talking about, is whether Cuvo's lesser performance, so to speak, on LAN can be evened out or exceeded by the way Variety tends to step up when it comes to when he's on a LAN stage, right? Because, as he said, we've seen what he can do when he's in front of a giant audience and playing on low latency, etc. All the things that come with playing in a big LAN, right? So does it make Dig a better team overall or a worse team overall? Is I guess what I'm asking. If we consider that Variety steps up and Cuvo maybe steps down a bit.
well, it's just who else? Which of these members on this team is going to step up other than Variety? Because we have seen how huge or how big, how important the jungle pressure is, and if Cuvo Fred loses that jungle pressure, how does it affect the team? Does Zyro's step, disappear? Does he step up? We got to remember this is only Arkle's fourth or fifth LAN event, so he's not as experienced as the other ones when it comes to these LANs. But who else other than Variety steps up in this occasion? Can he do it by himself, or is somebody going to have to make up for Cubo's lesser performances at LAN?
I think Arkle has that capacity to step up, right? We've seen him have overwhelmingly good performances during the split that we just watched, and I think if he is able to bring those to LAN as well, and from what we saw at the spring finals, it seemed like that, right? I think he can step up and carry games on LAN.
Yeah, but again, we know. I'm just gonna go back to the solo lane real quick. We know what a solo laner can do if he gets ahead. He can basically become another jungler, if I can put it this way, and set up a lot of things around the fire giant pit or in the mid lane.
Yeah.
If he has enough pressure and rotates enough.
Yeah, but
I think
go ahead.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, I think we've talked about this as well. If that is going to be enough, right? What do you do if your solo laner is having an off day in that situation? If you don't have enough to back him up with, really. Like, we've talked about this in the context of how ALG played their games during the split, how Cyclone was the essential carry factor that they had, and whenever he didn't step up, they would start to lose those games. Is there a risk that the same thing could happen to this probably much better Dignitas roster if they entirely?
It was if Cuvo Fred was to play bad, and it's probably not gonna happen with the rest of the team. So even if one player doesn't perform as well, the rest will not be affected like ALG was.
Yeah, there's a lot more carry potential from the rest of the team if Variety or if Kivo Fred doesn't perform well than what ALG had if Cyclone didn't perform well. Um, we bring up Arkle. We keep bringing up this new rookie hunter. Well, not rookie, but first year hunter, and what he did at the Springland and how well he performed in the summer can lean that away. But we also got to remember, like I said, this is only his 5th LAN, so we don't have enough evidence there to suggest that this is how it's going to perform. Evo Fred's case, we have plenty of evidence. He's been to almost every LAN since the start of Smite. He does tend to struggle at these types of events, and so does he become a weekend style jungle where he just is maybe not looking for pressure in the jungle, but looking for these opportunities, like these gods that will help set his teammates up to allow them to perform better than what he does, or what he does at LAN, at least.
Honestly, I don't think you can transition a team this quickly, right? If you're talking about going different picks in your for your jungler just because you're on LAN, it changes the identity of the team so much that it's going to be hard to replicate the performance that you usually have. And that is a more scary thing to do, in my opinion, than to just have a game or have a couple of games where your jungler doesn't perform as well as he would in an online environment. And I don't think overall Dig as a team can work around a supportive Cuba thread in its current composition, in my opinion.
Well, if he struggles, we could see, because the whole LAN meta allows you to play, different gods than what you expect to see or what you would be used to seeing. So Variety, we know about his tier, we know about his Ymir. These are picks that could possibly be seen at this event because this is a LAN. There's less ping. These abilities are a lot easier to hit, and so if Evo struggles in that first game, do they put him on the more supporty type jugglers and allow Variety to get one of these high carry picks that he's so good with?
Geofred could also play, the good jungle Loki, because I think Dashi's gonna be available at this LAN.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think so as well. It says it right here. It says it right here on the LAN website that Dashi will be available. Yeah, the LAN will be played on patch 4.11, in which I think she would still be banned during the normal split, right? But she will still be available for this LAN. Yeah.
Maybe if you put Geofred on that and he just gets the role of assassinating one of the enemy team in a big team fight, maybe that will be enough. Or even build a comp around that. Maybe keep a Capri for Brixton to get Geofred out.
Yeah, you'd have to have tricks on somebody like Kepri or Geb or somebody if Kibo's going to pick Daji, because if she chooses to engage with her 3, I believe it is, where she just picks a target and pops to him, that leaves her with little to no escapability. And if Black Dragons pick a team comp that are high in CC that can keep her there, that's a free kill, even if they lose a member in return. Cubo's going to be caught way out of position, and without that Kep revive or that Geb shield, she's just too much of a liability, in my opinion, for what she wants to do.
Well,
Look at her ultimate.
well,
Looking at her ultimate, that's people want to compare it to an Ares ult, but it's not. It's basically an Ares ult with a skill shot, and if you don't hit your skill shots, then the ultimate becomes useless for what you want to do as far as crowd control wise.
I'm just gonna
Yeah.
quickly go in here. We know Trixang also likes to play those aggressive guardians. So what if we see both Daji and Ares on the same team?
yeah, like
That could
like
also be.
that is the type of composition that could work, right? If you just but that's basically the team composition you will work. You want to have is, if you have an Ares, is some other beats burner. So you have two of these large high CC ultimates, and you use one to burn the beats, and then you come in with your second large CC ultimate and rack up a ton of kills.
Again, I bring up the point that it's a skill shot and not
Yeah,
a
sure.
guaranteed CC burn. Where you can pick somebody else that has that CC burn that can much more easily escape, like a Humbat's Fear No Evil ult, get
Yeah.
the beads, and then jump out.
But that is the only example I can really think of in the jungle that actually works, right? Is a Hunbats. Outside of that, junglers do not have massive multi-target strong CC ultimates generally.
Now again, talking about the land meta, we could very likely see Trixang on the Ares just because those chains will be easier to hit with, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, the lower ping.
Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure if we're going to see Daji. Ares, I think, is much more likely. But something I want to just talk about with the Daji, then we can move on, honestly, in my opinion, is that the way that you generally can combo her is that you would go in with your free, you try to just destroy someone with your 3-in-1 combo, and after that you start ulting and you start spreading those chains out onto the rest of the team and trying to pull them in, and otherwise trying to keep them away from you, right? And then you leap back down, and you should have enough distance created between you and the enemy team if you have your team there with you. That can also zone them away a bit to actually get out with your 2, in my opinion. That is the type of Daji combo that I could see work in a competitive setting. Outside of that, I'm not entirely sure if she's got really what it takes. But yeah.
Yeah, so you said we could move on. Do you want to do predictions for this set?
Well, I didn't think we were going to do just full set predictions. But yeah, I mean, we can if you want to.
Like, just to recap what we think about Dignitas versus Black Dragons. Think if
Well,
people take a game.
I think in the notes we have, it describes it pretty well, that Black Dragons are just a massive underdog. Anything but a 2-0 bye dig here would be unexpected. And an actual victory by Black Dragons would be one of the biggest upsets in Pro Smite history, in my opinion.
Yeah, I tend to agree, even though I said Black Dragons could realistically take a game off for this set. I think Dignitas is just too strong. And that I'm not going to say that it'll be one of the biggest upsets if Black Dragons does take a game off of Dignitas. Because I won't be surprised if they do. I'll be more surprised, like I said, if Black Dragons win the set. So, but I still see Dignitas taking this too low.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. It's
So-
possibly the best team in the world, so it will be a 2-0.
Yeah, it should be. Like everything else would be a bit worrisome for Dig, in my opinion. as well, because you're not supposed to be dropping games to a much weaker opponent. But yeah.
Then again, it's a best of 3, so you can maybe adjust your playstyle if you lose the first game and come back.
Yeah, I guess it depends
I
how
don't
you
think
lose
so.
the first game, right? Because if you
I
lose
don't think it does.
if you lose to a jank comp that only works once because it surprises you, and then you stomp a similar comp the next game, it makes a bit of a difference then. If you just lose a match to a normal comp that you were expecting to come out and still got beaten by, right? But yeah, I think that sums it up for this set. So we should go on to the next one that we're going to have. Here on our schedule, we can see that the next quarterfinals match is going to be between the NA team Trifecta and the two-time World Championship champions team, Energy Esports. So, what about this matchup? I'm going to throw it to Sabo right here. Sabo?
Well, I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to say Trifecta wins this set. And y'all are going to call me crazy, but looking at this matchup and looking at the teams, just compare the teams' rosters. I mean, I'm going to throw a team at you, and you're going to tell me, is this an NA team or an EU team? All right, here we go. Mid laner that is very flexible, can play these hunters in the mid lane, can play the Morgan, but can also play these burst mages like Toph and Vulcan. Jungler that is got great timing on ganks and good rotations. Also is high on the kill charts. Solo laner that is very selfish, plays for the team, doesn't really mind losing lane, and then a top-notch support and one of the best hunters in the game. Now, that sounds like an EU team, and would not be wrong to say that that's what EU teams are. You know, that's the makeup of an EU team. But I'm actually talking about Trifecta.
Yeah.
I think this is the closest to an EU team that North America has, just far as team comps and picks and ban strategies and just style of player. I think this is the closest that NA comes right now to having an EU type team, and I like Trifecta in this matchup simply because out of the NA teams, I expect them to do the best.
Well, you say that it looks like an EU team, and I don't think I fully agree with that. It looks like Energy, because Energy to a certain degree, but Energy also is a bit different from other EU teams if you look at it, because it's the only top team where you have a solo laner that really has no real problem with losing lane, right? Both the other three that we have, Maniac, Variety, and Deathwalker, all still like to be on these aggressive gods that can win them lane, and I think it's not an EU thing, the way this team is built and the way both of these teams are built. It's just a thing.
Yeah, I agree. I actually agree with that. It seems like NRG, not a typical EU team, because when we look back at Dignitas, Variety likes to be on those aggressive gods, and Zeros definitely does not have a big flexible god pool. Just going back to the last week where I said you can count his god pool on 4 fingers.
Yeah.
Well, now.
Yeah. And the other thing that I'd like to point out is when we're drawing comparisons between those teams. As I said last week, I think Energy has Trifecta beat in every position, just in a head-to-head matchup, right? Because I would rate Dimi miles ahead of Kiki. Is it? I think it's Kiki.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would, and adapting is obviously still probably the best jungler in the world, and so there's no way I would put Cynosure ahead of him. Then we have Yaman, who's one of the best mids, and we have the dual lane of NRG, which is also one of the best in the world, right? And I do not see Trifecta at their current level getting close to that individually. So that is why I think it's not going to be a close matchup.
But my point is that Trifecta, this is the best possible matchup for Trifecta. Being up against Energy, a team that their team makeup is very similar to. Despite skill levels between the two, Yemen, we know, that one of the better mid laners in the world at these lands, likes to bring out the hunters, likes to bring out the Chiron, the Onhor, the niche mids. Well, Herwin can do that too. Herwin has played Uller, Neath, Rom, all those in the mid lane. And so the makeup of the team is very similar. And that's if an NA team is to find a set victory, I think Trifecta matches up the best and able to find a way into the semifinals. And being an NA guy and an NA fan, I would like to see Trifecta be able to pull it out, simply because I think they match up the best against their opponent.
I'm just not sure it's gonna work in their favor rather than against it, right? Because if they have this similar team build up, then that can be an advantage for both teams, because both teams are gonna know what's coming, and in that case, I would favor the team that is simply better mechanically and more experienced and has the better players and the better adjusted players to each other overall, and in my opinion that's Energy. And I think we're gonna come to a later matchup where I would give NA more of a chance than in this one, and we're gonna talk about that there. But I don't see Trifecta winning this set. I see them maybe taking a game off of Energy if they still manage to bring out something unexpected, right? But outside of that, it's gonna be just as hard for them, in my opinion, as it's gonna be for most of the other NA teams. Yeah.
I think this matchup will depend a lot on the dual lane. Because if I'm just gonna go back to what you said about Yaman. Yes, he can pick those hunter mids, but he does that more often when Emilito picks the Soul, the Chronos, the Freya. So and obviously all of those are like late game hyper carries. And if you allow Emilito to get to the late game on his signature gods, I don't think you can expect to win the game.
Well, you're also forgetting that he's going up against one of the best hunters in Smite history, in Snoopy. And you bring up Emilito playing these mage hunters like the Souls and the Freyas and the Chronos. Snoopy has been more than willing to take that Soul into the hunter role, and so it's not that Emilito's getting these hyper carry mage hunters are going to be all that new to Snoopy. It's not going to catch Snoopy by surprise. He's going to know how to play against that, play into that, and play for the. Well, he's going to know how to counter that, so it's not going to catch him by surprise. So.
Yeah.
No, but that is what I said. Like, this matchup will depend on the dual lane, because if you allow the NRG dual lane to run away with it, you probably won't win the game. But the same applies for Trifecta. If Snoopy and Bionic manage to shut down Emilito, I think they have a higher chance to win the game then. And Also, I think in this set, it's much more likely that Trifecta will take a game of NRG than it is that Black Dragons will take one dig.
Yeah, obviously. The thing I just think when we're talking about the duo lane is that both of these duo lanes are so seasoned that it's gonna be hard to snowball a game specifically against them as the opposing duo lane, right? Because from what we've seen, as I said, they're both very seasoned and have played together for ages and have a synergy built that is hard to overcome. And especially the hunters themselves, they know when to back out of a fight, they know when to give up some space and to just farm back into the game, right? If they fall behind. And I think it's gonna be hard for either of them to find solo kills and to win the game through that by just hard carrying from that point on. What I think it's more gonna rely on are the junglers. Because we've seen Sino having great performances in the NASPL, and we've obviously seen Adapting having even greater performances, arguably. The question is just how they're going to synergize with the rest of the team and how it's going to translate against in this international play, right? It's hard to explain.
Well, Adapting and Sinosure are very similar players to me. They both have great timing on their rotations and on their ganks, and both are good at controlling their own jungles as well as the opponents. So it's a lot. It's a closer. Well, I don't want to say it's going to be closer than what a lot of people, because it is Adapting, but Sinosure should be able to at least keep Adapting from running away with everything, because he, like I said, they are so similar in their play style, and Adapting pressures one area of the map, Sinosure might counter by pressuring another area of the map. It could even out to where that the jungler is not as impactful as maybe Adapting or Sinosure want to be. I think they're both very smart players when it comes to the jungle. So,
see, I'm more worried that the other lanes are going to fall victim to them, especially on the Trifecta side, because I think if Hurriwind gets heavily ganked by Adapting, that he's going to struggle, and the same thing with Kiki, that they could just sort of get farmed pretty heavily, just because Adapting is a level above any jungler that they've really seen in recent memory, right?
Kiki likes to play these gods that are hard to gank, the Vimanas and the Nikes, the ones that are not the easiest person to kill in lane when the rotations come from the jungler. So having Kiki be able, having Adapting gank Kiki may not be a viable plan for the energy, though it might turn out that way. Looking at Hurwind as well, he does play the Soul mid, he does play the Morgan mid. I've said he does bring these hunters in mid, a lot of these long range safe clears. So the ganks from Adapting may not be as impactful as you think they're going to be.
I just have a hard time thinking that they're not going to be that impactful, because it's still Adapting, right? And we have seen energy struggle at times this year too. So yeah, against EU teams. So yeah,
I think because this is a 3-game set, possibly. Most games are actually, NRG didn't lose a single set in the summer split. They had 4 splits and 3 wins, and I think most, if not all of those splits, they won the second game. So even if they drop the first game to someone, or in this case to Trifecta, they will definitely like get back and win the next one. And this being a best of 3 really helps them do that. So yes, they did struggle this year, but they never actually lost a set.
Well, this split at least now. Yeah,
Of course, this split.
Yeah, I think that's something we're talking about is that a lot of Energy's losses in recent time that we've seen have been down to them starting slowly into sets. And obviously, when you're in a 2-game set, it's going to be it's going to be more of an issue than when you're in a 3-game set. So it could be that we see Trifecta fairly convincingly taking game 1, and then dropping the next 2, just because Energy is gonna ramp up. They are a team that over the duration of a set ramps up their game and just gets better and harder to beat.
I still think Trifecta takes this 2-1. I see Energy taking the middle game. I see it being sandwiched in between 2 Trifecta wins. Not that I saying Energy can't win this set. I think this is an even set as far as teams go. The experience factor does lean towards Energy heavily, but I just like what Trifecta brings to the table and what the different styles that they can bring as far as playing the EU style as well as the NA style. And let's not forget the biggest issue for NA teams at the spring finals, at the spring masters, was objective control. Trifecta has shown good control of these objectives like the Gold Furies and the Portal Demons and all that stuff in the middle of the map, and have shown better control than most of the other NA teams. So that could, they could play a factor there as well. Energy is not necessarily going to have this easy time as far as objective controls is going to.
Yeah. Honestly, I think if Trifecta is going to take this set, they're going to do it in 2 games. Purely because of how Energy ramps up. If they get to game 3, and Energy has the momentum because they've come back from a game 1 loss in game 2, and they are still up against the wall, right? Facing elimination if they lose this 1 game. And Energy in that type of situation doesn't seem very beatable by a Trifecta to me. So yeah. And
I think if
go on.
I think if NA takes a set in this tournament, it won't be Trifecta against NRG.
Yeah. So, can we wrap up this set and go to the next one? In that case.
Yeah, I believe so. We just agree to disagree.
Yeah, I think we sort of have to. So yeah, the next set that we're gonna be looking at is gonna be the set that I think both me and Psycho think that NA has the biggest chance of actually winning, which is gonna be Space Station Gaming against Team Rival. So Psycho, if you agree with that opinion, can you tell us why you think they have a good chance?
Yeah, it's not even okay. If Space Station was against NRG, I don't think the chance would be as big. But they're against Rival, and Rival, we saw them struggle in the later parts of the summer split. and actually had, if they didn't win the matchup against Enix, they wouldn't even be here. And Space Station is obviously the top team in North America, at least by the standings. If Rival plays like they did at the end of the split, I think Space Station can definitely take this set, maybe even 2-0.
Yeah, I'm reminded by the fact that Rival is a bunch of Lanimals. They're really good at LAN on these big stage team environments. They, of course, they won the gauntlet, the spring gauntlet, by taking out this exact team in a 2-0 situation on the gauntlet finals, and they also beat that energy team at the gauntlet as well, finding a win against Luminosity at the spring finals. This is a team that performs better on LAN than they do online, and I think this team, with bringing back Deathwalker, not having a sub for this, I think they play better in this situation than what they did against Elevate. The key for me, though, is Ice Ice Baby. We saw without Deathwalker there, without the pressure that Deathwalker was able to create in that solo lane and in that solo side of the jungle, that the Ice Ice Baby struggled really, really bad and really hurt his team. We saw him behind Cherio 4 to 5 levels. Wolfie was down. Elevate was just running the map, and it's because Rival didn't have that jungle pressure for the most part. Deathwalker should alleviate that some, but I think the key is the early game from the Space Station duo lane. Does Vedium and Jigs, can they get off to a good start, get the invades going, get these controlling their side of the map and forcing Ice Ice Baby to pay more attention over there, which allows Homie Faye to put pressure on the solo lane side and really take Deathwalker out of the set. This is what worries me about Space Station Gaming. Rivals is a team of Lanimals. Space Station is a team of players not showing up at LAN.
Well, you actually said it earlier today. Space Station has Endancer. You even said you wanted to talk about this, and now you say they don't have any LAN players. Like, Endancer was called Landancer. You can.
Yeah, well, he was called Landanster because he didn't perform on LAN historically. But if you ask me, he's broken that curse, really.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
they'll have issues on Endancer being the exception. Look at back at Homie Faye's recent LAN performances. I'm specifically looking at Super Regionals last year when he was on that Flashpoint team. The only team that did not make it to Worlds out of NA. We saw all the other 4 teams make it to World except for Flashpoint. And with a roster like Bedium and Herwin and Jigs, or not Jigs, but Shadowq and Benji, that team should have made Worlds. And just going back and watching those sets, it was very apparent that Homie Faye was struggling, and that he probably cost Flashpoint a shot at Worlds, or a going to Worlds.
Honestly, Homie to me has always been a sort of on-off jungle, or feast or famine, is I guess how you can also describe it, with how he plays, right? Because he is a highly aggressive jungler, and he is a highly risk-taking jungler. So when it works out, he obviously has great success, right? I think in the past I've called him the best NA jungler. I think right now he's still in contention for that role. But he has this clear issue where if he has a bad game, he's going to have a really bad game. But in trade for that, when he has good games, they're going to be really, really good. And
more often than not, we see him have bad games at LAN. So that
yeah,
first factor you're talking about.
yeah, but I'm not sure. What I'm not sure about is whether the sample size we do have from him performing on LAN is really large enough to put this stamp of a poor LAN player on his resume for us. Because if you base your statement about him being on LAN, poor on LAN, on just super regionals, really, then how many sets are you looking at, or how many days are you looking at more specifically? Because if you catch an off day during this LAN, you're just gonna lose.
Let's go. Well, let's go back to DreamHack of last year, where Homie Faye was on that SOAR team. Baskin, Baskin was one of the main reasons SOAR performed so well at that LAN. It wasn't Homie Faye. Homie Faye struggled. It all came down to Baskin and Jigs, in my opinion. We saw her when struggle there. We saw her when struggle on super regionals. Obviously, this team got 3-0'd by Dignitas at the spring finals. So, I think you're right. It's too early to give him a reputation of he's bad at LAN, but we've seen enough of him on LAN that I think we could at least have that discussion.
Yeah, I'm just not sure how substantial it is, right? Because I think he's also had good games on LAN. Honestly, I'm not sure you can really. As I said, I'm not sure you can call him a bad LAN player, because for that he's not bad consistently enough for me. But yeah, it could be one of the struggles that Space Station's gonna face going into this LAN, but I'm not entirely sure if it's really gonna be. And as we've said, there could be a much bigger struggle that wait. There could be a much bigger struggle that Rival's going to be facing due to how they've shown us how inconsistent they can be as well. And I think that is worrisome for them, because depending on the type of rival that we see showing up, it could be an easy 2-0 for them, but it could also be an easy 2-0 for Space Station, in my opinion.
Yeah, late in the split, Rival really didn't show us much. And in the last set, it was mainly because they didn't have Deathworker, I think. We talked about it a bit. But the soul lane pressure really is something that Rival can build off. And if we don't see at LAN, as Space Station can 2-0 Rival easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I bring up the early game. I want to see Jigs and Betty on these early game gods to put pressure on that side of the map and really force Ice Baby over to that side of the jungle and let Homie Faye help Final K out as putting pressure on on the solo lane side of the jungle, getting those blue buffs and those speed buffs. That is what it comes. That's where it all comes down to me, because we saw Ice Baby, like I said, really struggle against Elevate without that pressure from Deathwalker being there. And if Space Station can take that pressure that Deathwalker wants to generate away from him, how does Ice Baby respond? Does he fall behind like he did against Cherio and Nuissa, or does he have a completely different game and help his team win instead of being a liability?
Yeah. But the question I have about solo lane pressure is Final K going to be able to go toe to toe with someone like a Deathwalker, who's been so innovative in the solo role and who's had such a big impact for his team in most of their matches?
That's why I want to see the duo lane of Jix and Vedium perform so well, so that all the pressure is not on Final K, and Deathwalker's impact isn't quite as big. So I want to see the early game gods like Medusa and Capri or Ganesh from the space station duo lane to really give Final K some breathing room in that side of the map.
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of missed something here. You want pressure in solo lane to shut down Deathworker, but you also want dual lane. Wait.
No, I want Ice Baby's focus to be on the duo lane, and I want that pressure from Jigs and Vedium to create a situation where Ice Baby has to really look at that side of the jungle and keep his team, keep his duo lane in the match. And I think if Jigs and Vedium can do that and can bring Wolfie and Ice Baby over to that side of the map more than he spends on his own side of the map, that Homie Faye can in turn help Final K pressure out Deathwalker.
Oh yeah, I see. I see what you're getting.
Yeah. What I just think is that it's always going to be hard to also put that amount of pressure onto Kalas and Vote, because they're obviously also very good dual lane themselves. So it's gonna take a lot of effort on the space station side, and especially Vedium, who's more of a farmy jungler, could struggle with trying to fit into that playstyle where he has to pressure the other team out in order to gain an advantage and force the focus to be on him instead, right?
That's why the Medusa pick for me, or some other early to mid game hunter like Oddhor, needs to happen. Someone that can create that pressure. Given if Jig plays Capri or Ganesh or Geb, these big circle AoE supports that are strong in the early to mid game, and in Geb's case in the late game, can create that pressure to where Vedium has that room to maneuver and to get out if he doesn't feel like he's in a good situation to do it. I want an early game comp from the duo lane, but I want a safe comp from the duo lane.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah, I totally understand, but again, I'm not sure if Vedium specifically is the type of player to play that comp to its full strength, and if that full strength is going to be enough to overpower a rival if they show up in a proper form, right? But it could be. I think you've listed well what their sort of win condition is, because Final Case obviously gonna struggle, in my opinion, against Deathwalker if he doesn't get focus from Homie FA, and as you said, there needs to be pressure on the duo side from Space Station in order to allow that focus to happen by drawing away ice ice. So yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well. Yeah. Another question I would have is someone we've not talked about now. We've talked about all the other players from Space Station. Sort of. What about Andy in the mid lane? How does he need to play the game to bring his team success?
I made it sound confusing earlier, but what I meant when I said Landenster was that now, actually opposite to what it used to be before, now he shows up at lands, or at least the ones we've seen lately.
Yeah.
And even in the online stages, I think he found the gods he can really play. And if he sticks to that, they have a relatively good chance to win it. And he can even carry the game on his own if he plays a Scylla that he used to play a lot in the online portion.
Again, got to come up with the land meta and look at what gods are usually high picked in the land. What Andy likes to play, the Raws, the Scyllas, the Souls, and the Talls. This could be the perfect situation for him, especially given, if Trifecta, or not Trifecta, if Space Station goes the way I want them to by playing the Kepri and the Medusa, or the early game dueling, having Anister on that Scylla to bring that late game hyper carry with the setups from Ziggy spatial control, or the Medusa Stone Gaze. Having Anister on that late game hyper carry like Scylla could be in this situation where her abilities are a lot easier to land on land, especially the ultimate, the I'm a Monster ultimate. Andy could have a big day. If Rival wants to really shut down Andy, they have to focus him out in the picks and bans. And with these top picks like Bologna, Osiris, and Fafnir, Terra, with Circuit as well, with those being available, I just don't know where you're going to ban out Scylla or Raw away from Andy.
Yeah, because I think Andy is another player that can be a win condition for his team, because we've seen his carry potential, and we've seen how well he does with his gods, as you listed them down, and all of those gods, as you also said, tend to perform better on LAN, or at least theoretically should. So if he has a good game, it could be another thing that could bring Space Station a victory, even against a strong-looking rival, which is a good thing for them, obviously. So yeah, is there anything else you guys want to talk about in this set between Rival and Space Station?
Like, just the one thing we keep going back to in this set is, if Rival shows up, they have the potential to 2-0, but if they don't, Space Station can 2-0 them in return. So it'll really depend on that.
Yeah, it's hard to predict this set because, as we said, we don't know which rival's going to show up. They have arguably shown the most inconsistency out of any EU team this split. And yeah, at least of those making it to Dreamhack, actually. But regarding that, it could be hard for them as well. And due to this inconsistency that we've seen from Rival, I think me and Psycho both think that this is the set where NA is the most likely to pick up an actual set, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, let's move on to the next set we have then.
Yeah, talking about inconsistency.
Yeah, it kind of leads nicely into it. Let's talk about inconsistency. Let's talk about luminosity, and let's talk about arguably almost the opposite of inconsistency, Obey Alliance, who are going to be facing each other in the fourth quarterfinals that we're going to have. So, Sabo, how would you rate Luminosity's chances against this Obey lineup?
85-15. If we're going percentage wise, I don't think
Yeah.
Luminosity has. In my opinion, Obey's the best team in the world, despite what the records show. Luminosity is. 3 weeks ago, we're saying Luminosity is the best team in NA, and now I don't know where to put them because they nearly collapsed at the end of the split.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to make predictions about Luminosity winning, especially against a team the caliber of Obey. And so it's very much odds-on favorite for Obey. The one thing that has to happen for me if Luminosity wants to win the set, Scary D has to find his Worlds, has to repeat what he did at Worlds and have that good of a matchup. Because it's really, if you're asking me, in my opinion, Scary D is playing for his spot on this team. And anything short of a finals appearance, I don't think Scary D finds himself on this team during the fall, because he is the one player that has been inconsistent enough to a point that it's hurting the team.
Yeah. I think we've talked about it a lot already in previous episodes about how roster changes for Luminosity might look if they don't find a whole lot of success in Dreamhack. And yes, Gardy is, I would agree, is someone that needs to step up in this tournament if they want to make a deep run. Another person that I've also talked about in the last episode is Barracuda, who hasn't had these hyper carry performances that you would expect to see from a hunter of his caliber. And I think the lack of those have also been a part of the reason why Luminosity's not looked very impressive in the later half of the split. And I think if those do not come, or rather if they do come, they will have a much better chance against Obey. Without them, it's gonna be hard to win against the team of this caliber, of the caliber of Obey, right? You mentioned that you consider them to be the best team in the world. I think they're definitely in contention for it with several others. But it's gonna be hard for Luminosity. I think we can all agree on that, just in general.
I think even if, well, assuming that Luminosity, especially Scary and Barracuda, show up, I don't think even then they have a big chance to win against Obey. Just because, going back to what we saw at the spring finals, they didn't really look like much there. And Obey, on the other hand, they won the they won the tournament, and they are still potentially the best team in the world. And I don't think Luminosity, even if they play at their best, can beat Obey.
This set has a lot of potential in it because we've seen, particularly Jeff and Barra, when they're up against the best competition in the world, they play better, and the sets become very fun to watch. Cloud9 versus Epsilon, this Luminosity team against at Worlds, both very fun sets to watch. Both in situations, Jeff and Barra were not favored to actually win the sets, but they made it close. They took them to Game 5, and the sets were very fun to watch. And so I think it has the potential to be one of the more entertaining sets of Dreamhack. But I don't, like I said, even if Scary D shows up and performs and has an outstanding LAN, I don't think he's on this team next split without at least a finals appearance, if not a victory at the LAN, outright winning the LAN. I don't think Scary D is on this team next roster or next split. And so it's if Scary D realizes that, steps up and plays like he did at Worlds and can catapult this team into a finals appearance, we're looking at somebody else. So that could just be incentive for Scary D to get his act together and really help the team.
Yeah. Like, Scary's always been a heavily criticized player, and a lot of that criticism he's received has obviously been deservedly. So if he steps it up, I would be a bit surprised by it, right? Because we've seen him have really good performances on LAN, and I think that makes a difference for him a bit as well. But the pressure he's going to be under, still fearing for that DreamHack spot, for that roster spot probably, it's going to put more pressure on him, and it's really going to come down to whether he performs under that pressure. And as we've seen at Worlds, he has the potential to, right? Because there he was in a very similar situation, and he obviously stepped it up massively. But it's going to be a bit harder, in my opinion, to replicate that very performance that he's had there going into this LAN. So yeah, but the rest of the roster that we haven't really talked about yet are Baskin and Masked. What do we expect from those two, really?
I don't really know about Mask, but I'm gonna talk about Baskin first. I totally expect him to do something similar to what he did at the end of the summer split, or that's what I hope to see from him. Because in the last few games, I think it was the last set of the split against AI, he looked absolutely phenomenal. And if he can repeat it at in Dreamhack, he will be. He's probably the best player on LG right now.
Yeah, I'd definitely say that he is the most consistent player on the team, and that sort of automatically makes him the best. But yeah, what about Masked?
In my opinion, Mask can be one of the better junglers in the world based on Scary D's performance. A lot of time Mask is forced over there to help out Scary D, and as a result hurts his own play style, hurts what he wants to do, really keeps him from doing what he wants to do the most. So again, it comes back down to how Scary D plays. Very much affects how Mask performs in the game. I'm in agreement about Baskin, though. If he can play like he did against AI, he should have an impact in this set and could help Luminosity find a win. Even though I don't expect Luminosity to win the set, if Baskin performs like he did and the rest of the team helps him out, they could find a win. But again, I keep bringing up Scary D. Scary D has to perform well, and if he performs well, he lets the rest of the team play well.
Yeah. So, what about the team that they are facing, Obey? Sort of what do we expect from them? Who needs to perform here for them to find success? Maybe not specifically looking at this set, where we are obviously predicting them to be the heavy favorites, but maybe looking at the later ones that they could be getting themselves into.
I'm just excited about the new stuff Ataraxia will bring.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about who has to show up for Obey, I think it has to be their jungler. Because I think we agreed on him as or two of us at least, as the MVP of the 5th week for Summer Split, if I'm not mistaken. And we know what he can do if he shows up on these warrior junglers.
Yeah, I think
if he can set up on those. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think Twig's biggest strength is sort of his large god pool, because we've obviously seen him bring out the warrior jungles. Or I think he's the only player in the SPL to actually have played Odin, or to actually have found success with Odin this split. So it kind of gives you already an idea of how his god pool is set up. And in addition to those junglers, the unusual ones, he's also a good jungler on the standard assassins, right? And I think that versatility is what makes him good, not necessarily his actual skill, mechanical skill, but for that reason he's a very valuable jungler for Obey, because obviously, as I think you were leading into right now, he can be the setup man, and that can benefit the rest of the team. So go on with your point.
Yeah, you basically said what I wanted to find out. That he can set up with those Odins, with this Osiris slow and stun.
Yeah.
You basically said it for me. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I agree. I very much agree. The rest of the team is good, and that's putting it modest. Twig puts them over the top, though, and that's his versatility, the way he likes to do things, makes them the best team in the world, in my opinion. I think if you put anybody else on this team in that jungle role, the team is still one of the top teams in the world. But with Twig there and what he's able to do, he's versatility as far as his god pool goes, his playstyles go, the fact that he is a high-ranked duel player and that he's fine taking these 1v1s. It's a playstyle that I can't think of any other jungler in A or EU that can match him as far as that type of play goes. And so I just think Twig is just too valuable for this team. And if this team wants to find success at Dreamhack and win Dreamhack, Twig is very much a important cog in the wheel.
Yeah, but I think what speaks for them is that Twig is likely to show up, right? Because he's not really shown himself to be an inconsistent jungler. So from that point of view, I think things are looking good for Obey, purely because Twig as a success factor for them is a success factor that you can usually rely upon.
So you're looking for somebody other than Twig. You want to answer other than Twig, okay?
No,
Well,
I just I just mean that Twig. I think Twig is going to show up. That is basically what I'm saying, because Twig usually shows up. But I think the rest of the team around him obviously needs to show up as well. And most of the time they also do, right? Ataraxia is a fairly consistent hunter. Milzy, very consistent support. Prime, very consistent. Like he has his base level of performance, and that performance is really good. And then he has this carry potential as well, I guess, or this
I
massive
want to
carry
see.
potential.
I want to see Luminosity force Ataraxia onto Yanis. Ban out every hunter and just make him play Yanis. There's
Yeah,
your best
but
chance to win right there.
yeah, but you only have 4 bans, right?
Okay, well, put Baskin on a hunter, put Barracuda on a hunter, then ban out 4 hunters, and then that's 6 hunters off the board. There's only like 12 or 13.
So he's gonna go Artemis and beat everyone.
He's gonna go Jingwei, I believe.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah, but still, I think the other players around Obey, if they show up in their usual form, I guess what I'm saying, they should have no real issue winning this game against Luminosity. And if they show up at a higher form, like the ones we've seen from Prime at times, right, when he's really looking like clearly the best mid in the world, if they show up in that sort of form, then this should be an easy 2-0, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I don't give Luminosity much of a shot here. Not without some over the top, downright perfect performances from the team. Obey's just too good for Luminosity right now.
I think if they show at their top form, they can take a game, but not the set.
So yeah, I guess is that all you want to discuss in terms of this matchup, or is there anything else you'd like to get off your chest right now? Well, doesn't seem like it. So
I mean, what else? We can go further into what SKD has to do, but we've already we've already said that if he doesn't replicate his performances at Worlds, Luminosity really doesn't have a shot here.
Okay, I'm gonna put in one fun fact in here. 3 players in this match actually were to all 3 World Championships, and that is Barracuda, Chifindla, and Captain Twig.
Yeah, Twig is the only EU player who's been to all 3 Worlds.
Oh yeah. Well, Zeros has been there as well, but he was as a coach in the last one.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
Twig, I believe, has made it to every land since the launch tournament. So.
Oh yeah, that might be a thing as well. Well, unless you count the Gauntlet lands, I guess. Right, because.
Yeah.
But the same
every
thing
major, every end of the split land.
Yeah, the same thing used to be true for the original SK and Fnatic roster, right? They used to be as a roster in every LAN tournament until obviously they failed to qualify. I think they're 2-1 in season 3. Probably the Masters LAN, and from that point on, then afterwards, obviously the team split up, and Twig went to this Hungry for More roster that has now stuck together and turned into Obey Alliance. So yeah, a little bit of a history lesson right there. Before we go to our next segment, I would like to do one of the giveaways we promised to do, and for that, just let me quickly prepare something. I need half a second. So yeah, if you want to participate in the giveaway, and I just want to say, both of you guys aren't allowed to, you can type !gems in the chat right now.
Yeah, I'm just gonna quickly fill in the rest of the players who were at all 3 Worlds, which is MLC Stealth, Andenser and the Chinese player Blue Whale.
Oh, wow. I did not expect
They're
a Chinese player to have been to all worlds, but it makes sense.
We're probably not gonna see that again because China is still in season 3.
Yeah, well,
Does
hey,
China have a pro league anymore? I thought they broke up their pro league.
I'm not sure.
I guess so because
Isn't it the Southeast Invitational or Southeast Asia Invitational now? That what it's called.
So are we gonna get a Southeast Asian team at Worlds? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, that's what it's looking like.
Interesting.
also he actually got to one. Whoops! I just dropped something. He was
Yeah.
actually at 2 of the championships as a substitute, I think, and at the last one only because his teammate had visa issues.
Yeah.
Hey, he was there.
Okay. It doesn't look like anyone else is participating in our giveaway, so I'm gonna roll it now, and yeah. You can see the winner in chat. Sashaj, whatever. Yeah, you've won 400 gems. So, have fun with those.
Yeah, get you a cool little new skin.
I'll give them to you during next week, and you can send me a message on Twitch with your in-game username for Smite, and I will give them to your account. So yeah, have fun.
Get you that chibi raw skin and just troll everybody.
Yeah, maybe if you're lucky with the chests, or if you're a whale.
Bye.
Yeah.
That's the only raw skin we're ever gonna see now.
The most annoying thing about this skin is you're welcome every time you try to heal someone.
Yeah, that is that is the best part actually. Like, I think the buy is great and all, but the you're welcome is even better. So yeah. Okay, so on to the other talking points we really had about this LAN event. Obviously, we're gonna quickly go over the semifinals that we predict and the finals that we expect to see. We're gonna also predict a winner later on that we expect to see happen. Yeah, but overall, if we're looking at this LAN, who are you guys looking at to see a really step up? I think we've kind of went into that topic a bit already, but just to recap maybe a bit. Overall, whose LAN do you think this is gonna be?
Who wins Dreamhack, or which player is going to have the best LAN?
For players now, yeah. For players.
Well, if realistically, if an NA team wants to find a win, the player on any of these teams that's got to have the most impact for me has to be Homie Faye for Space Station. Talked about it already. His performances, or lack thereof, at LANs have really hurt his team in the past, and we've said that Space Station is probably the NA team with the best chance to win a set against an EU team, and I don't think that happens without Homie Faye stepping up in a big way. I think Rival is just in a LAN setting. I think Rival is just too strong for Homie Faye to disappear and expect Space Station to actually win the set.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Well, if you're not only talking about the quarterfinals, I'm still gonna go with Captain Twig. Because if Obey is to win this tournament, and I think it's very likely that they will get to the finals, it will probably be because of Captain Twig.
Yeah, if we're doing that, I'm agreeing with you. Captain Twig is going to be the main, or is going to be a big reason why Obey finds their way into the finals. But if we're just talking about the player that needs to step up the most, then it's got to be Homie Faye for me.
Oh, if we're doing who needs to step up the most, it would be Scary D.
No, I was more going with who do you expect to overall just show the best performance as a player on this in this LAN, right?
Yeah, then it's Captain Twig for me.
Yeah, Captain Twig.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go in a bit of a different direction. I think Twig's also gonna be important. I think Prime has a chance if he shows up in this monster form that he has to take this sort of title home. But on the other hand, I think this could be the tournament where we see NRG making a large comeback to finals and to being considered in contention for the best team in the world again. And for that to happen, I think we're gonna have to see Adapting perform really well, and I think it is likely that we will see that, right? If just because of how he has been looking during the split and how he has had on LAN past performances where he has really stepped it up. I think he can do it again, and I think if he does it, then NRG has a shot at winning Dreamhack and making it deep into it at least. So yeah, I think my sort of player to look out for is gonna be Adapting, because if he does show up with a big performance, it's gonna catapult NRG very deep into the tournament.
Yeah, I don't think we're too far removed from NRG being considered the best team in the world, and to me that means that's basically saying anytime NRG is at LAN, you have to favor them, and which very much is the case, right? I mean, they won every LAN they participated in for more than a year, even against some of the top competition from NA, like, you know, Enemy twice, taking down Luminosity or Jeff and Bear's team twice, and so it's even with Dignitas and Obey being up there with them, I still think that we're not far enough removed from the old NRG playstyle to say that we can't expect them to win. I don't think anybody would say that if NRG wins that Dreamhack that they'll be surprised. I don't think we're too far out to say that.
Honestly, I think considering the level of Dig and Obey that we've seen, I would be a bit surprised, or I think the general community would be a bit surprised. At least they wouldn't put them as the heavy favorites to win the tournament, right? More like a bit of an under favorite.
They're not the favorites, but again, I say they won every LAN that they played in for more than a year. It's anytime they show up at a LAN, you have to expect them at least having a good chance of winning.
Yeah. Good.
I'd rather not get into this before the predictions, because I'll probably say more then.
Okay, good. Yeah. So something else that we want to talk about, we've already kind of touched upon it as well, is the picks and bans that we're gonna expect to see for this LAN, because obviously the LAN, like most LANs, is probably gonna develop a LAN meta that is more specific to the LAN environment than it is to the general Smite play. What do we expect to see happen there? Because it could be a bit difficult to predict, right?
There's always something weird at lands. I mean, Chang'e jungle wasn't a thing until we saw it come in at Worlds, and then people, you know, kind of took off with it from there. Aphrodite jungle at the spring finals. That's something we all remember, though it did not take off. Guan Yu jungle didn't have success at the last LAN either, but like there's always something surprising, and I don't know where to go to say that it's going to be like, I guess a Guardian jungler is probably the wildest thing I can come up with right now. Maybe Ganesha solo or something. But the LAN meta should be interesting at least, because LAN metas typically are.
So, what are we expecting in terms of the current top picks that we do have? Obviously, Osiris, Bellona, to some extent Ravana, to some extent Susanoo, to some extent just all of those gods. Are we expecting them to largely stay more dominant picks, or just to completely fall out? And if so, why do we think that is going to be?
I think Osiris and Bellona will stay at the top, but there will be a few guys joining them, which is the Morrigan and Soul. Yes, we have seen the rise of those two gods in the summer split. The Morrigan is a very strong god in most of the roles, and the best probably in the mid lane. And she can just blow up anyone, basically. If you have the right build, you can just, with the one ability from a teammate, you can kill someone with two abilities, basically.
I think Morrigan is going to be a top pick, contested pick at this LAN. Simply just because of what we saw from her as far as her popularity rise throughout the summer. It's not just the EU mid laners now. Herdwin has put it into his god pool. So if Trifecta moves on to face, say, Dignitas, that pick of the Morrigan should be highly contested, because both mid laners have shown proficiency at it. So, just all the adaptability of what she allows you to do should make her top pick. Bellona and Osiris, in my opinion, should stay around as top picks. It's as you get further down the warrior list that you should be able to see more and more weirder picks. Bring up Variety's tier. Beginning of the year is not a surprising off-meta pick, but right now with Bellona and Osiris being so prominent, tier can make a comeback at this LAN, at least for the LAN. And see, so I expect to see Variety's tier once or twice, especially with the Fearless being able to cancel out so much of what Bellona wants to do.
Yeah, I think I agree with most of those, right? Because we've already seen Saul and Morrigan sort of coming deeper into the meta and becoming more valuable picks, or considered to be more valuable picks overall. I think this could be the breakout LAN for Morrigan, where she dominates the games that she gets picked in, and then in later games is perma-banned because of how good she is, how versatile she is. I think her ult could work a bit better in a LAN environment because of it being a bit quicker to go off, right? And her ult requires you to get it off pretty quickly. So I think overall we could see a lot of versatility here. I think we could see Daji being picked maybe. I think it's pretty unlikely, but it might happen. And yeah, I think if she gets picked, it could very well be in conjunction with a Morrigan, just to have her ult twice, or have her with another high CC ult, and then a Morrigan in addition to that, who can double one of those ults again. So yeah, I think Morrigan should be the big pick for this LAN, in my opinion, because go ahead.
I think. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to really quickly say, right now I think Daji is really strong. I didn't think much of her when we first talked about her, but since she got her buffs, she feels like a really strong jungle god, and I think we'll actually see more of her. LAN.
I think we'll see her play. I don't expect to see a lot of her, but I do think we'll see her play. In my personal opinion, I just think there are better forms of reliable CC or reliable beads burners on other people's ults. Humbats, Humbats is obviously the one on top of our mind, but for what she wants to do, diving in and getting that ult off and then getting out, I think there's a lot more reliable choices than just having her in the jungle. Circuit's probably a better option right now. Humbats at LAN, we should see Humbats around a lot more, especially with the rise of the Morgan being so prevalent, bringing something like two Fear No Evils, or even Ares No Escape, having two of those is more beneficial to a situation than having two Dajis where you have to hit your skill shots to just burn the beads.
Yeah. The reason I don't think we're gonna see a lot of Daji is mostly because she is unsafe, right? She has this certain unsafety factor that because she can't really escape on her own, or at least not if they have a decent amount of hard CC, and she has to go in very deeper than most other junglers would have to really deal her damage, and she has to stay there for a while if you try to get her 2 off, which obviously you almost can't do. But I think against certain comps she is gonna be a good pick because they lack hard CC, because she becomes safe through that, and against those comps she is gonna get picked. And whether she finds success is going to be an entirely different story, right? Or whether her ult is actually good enough to justify picking her entirely for it is also an entirely other question. But I think it has a certain value that is rivaled by these other big CC ults, and yeah. So I think we could see her.
It's not guaranteed enough for me to say we're going to see a lot of her. And she does struggle against some of these other top picks. Bologna in particular, that 3, the disarm hurts Daji a lot. And so if Bologna makes it through and Bologna is picked into a game, don't expect to see Daji in that situation, at least.
I still think Daji will be picked in most of the games. Even though you all had good points, I still don't think it's enough to prevent her from being she is right now. Because she can do a lot of different things, right? You can burst someone down in a second, but you can also be the big setup for your team. Like, of course, it's not guaranteed, but like what in Smite, like most of the abilities in Smite are skill shots, right? So like you can't say anything is guaranteed. And I still think Daishi with the buffs will be one of the better junglers. Yeah, she can do too much to just ignore her.
Yeah. So, I guess from that we can move on again, unless you have another pick that you think is going to do well or is going to get picked a lot, and that you really want to talk about.
I mean, again, Hunbats usually makes big performances at land meta. So I expect to see a lot of him as well.
Honestly, I disagree with that, because Hunbats is a bit worse on land because it is much easier to preemptively beat his ult, right? It has that audio cue that goes off before the actual ult comes out, and if you can manage to beats before then, or to react quick enough to that audio cue, which most of the pros are going to be able to do, to prevent his beats from hitting you at all, it's going to get a lot weaker, and it's going to lower his value as a pick overall quite a lot, in my opinion.
But in that situation, he's still very highly valued because, you can hear his ult, the sound cue before his ult, and beats preemptively, but you still beat. And so his ult doesn't have to hit you to be able to get those beads. And so, big forms of CC like a Ares ultimate or Geb, Blink Cataclysm, some form of gigantic AoE CC abilities that you would save your beads for, aren't going to have you're not going to have those beads available because you burnt them on the sound cue of the Fear No Evil.
You don't necessarily need to burn the beads, right? You can just use your CC Immune Ultimate if you have it available.
And that as well. Like if you're playing on her and you hear a Hunbats blinking in, you just ult. Or you hear the ult coming off, you could just ult in return and avoid his, and you're not wasting the long cooldown of a beats, right? So against gods with innate CC immunity, he might struggle a bit more than others. But yeah, he still has value as a beats burner, obviously, his ult. But overall, I think he becomes a good pick when it has value beyond that, really. And I'm not sure that it's gonna have that on LAN.
One god though that is pretty good at LAN, and I expect to see him there, is Sylvanas. We haven't seen much Sylvanas in the summer split online, but online he's still a very strong pick because you can land those pulls much easier with the low ping, and I expect him to make an appearance.
Yeah,
I mean, Eonic loves the god, so it's almost, we could possibly see that because Eonic values Sylvanas so highly. But you also got to bring up the Sylvanas' shortcomings, his lack of mobility, the fact that Serket and Osiris both are so highly valued in this meta, and they have complete shutdown of Sylvanas' healing. That could be one of the reasons why we don't see Sylvanas picked up in this meta or at this land. So I wouldn't say it's not possible. I would just say you got to be worried about when you pick him.
So I just want to announce as well. I'm not sure if anyone else is actually even here. Let me just check chat real quick. Right, so apparently you are the only guy here in chat eligible for the gem giveaways. So I don't want to give away more than one gem reward to a single person, honestly. As mean
I'll take them.
as mean as it may be, but yeah.
I won't turn them down.
Sorry, Sesh Harsh.
I'll be happy to take them. I won't turn them down.
You're not eligible for gem giveaways, Sabo. I'm sorry. You have to buy your own.
It's not rolling if you give me one and then give Psycho one.
No. Why should I do that? Just explain yourself.
I'm messing with you, but yeah.
So yeah,
We've had a couple people pop in.
Yeah, so they didn't stick around, so they don't get gems.
They don't get gems. So
yeah,
I hope we're entertaining it.
Yeah, if Seshaj is happy with his 400 gems, then that is good for me as well, right? So,
I mean, if you're not entertained, Roby has a camera; he can do a little striptease for you.
I'm not allowed to do that on Twitch, but we can discuss doing it on some other side. If the pay is right. If the pay is right, we can do that. Hey, if you're gonna report anyone, report Sabo, because he was the one who suggested it. So yeah.
Hey, I don't stream on Twitch anyways. Go ahead, report me.
Yeah, but you have a Twitch account. We can still ban that account preemptively, just because you think about doing stripteases on stream.
Then I guess we have a. I guess we use Discord from now on then.
Yeah. So
there are other avenues, all right.
Yeah.
Other avenues.
Sure. So. Still, I want to keep the show. I want to actually move the show on, Sabo. Do you understand this?
Yeah.
Because we still got some points left that we need to discuss, and one of those is picking who we think is gonna win the entire event, right? So yeah, just gonna throw it to one of you, Psycho, randomly chosen for no apparent reason. Who do you think's gonna win, and why?
As an NRG fanboy, I think it's gonna be NRG. Why? Because they are the 2 times world's champions. They have great showings at LANs, and I think they even have the potential to beat Dignitas and whoever gets to the finals.
I just wanna point something out. Them being 2-time world champions didn't help them too much at spring finals. But yeah, they still are.
It's just, I have no excuse for that, but it won't happen at Dreamhack.
All right. Yeah. So Sabo, who do you think's gonna win?
Well, no surprise for me. I think they're the best team in the world, and I think they're just going to continue to prove it. I think Obey Alliance wins Dreamhack. I think the final matchup is going to surprise a few people because I do have Obey 3-1 Trifecta.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
I'm going bold. Go bold or go home. And
yeah.
I'm an NA guy. I have to pick an NA team at least. And I think Trifecta is the best NA team in this tournament.
Yeah. So, as I said, for my prediction, as I said, I think NRG winning would be an upset. So, obviously, the smart decision would be not to pick NRG, right? if you think them winning is upset. But I'm not going to be smart today, so I'm also going to say NRG. Because looking at their form in the split and looking at how they only lost first games, and these sets aren't going to be decided by a single game or by just 2 games, I think they have a legitimate shot at winning these. So yeah, and as Psycho said, they are a very seasoned team, and they have these players that can step up. And I think, and as I said already, I think this is going to be an Adaptings tournament, and he is going to carry NRG to victory over everyone else. Yeah.
EU boys have a love, just have a infatuation with your adapting, don't you?
Hey, he is really fucking good. Like seriously, just look at how he plays. He is. Like,
You're not. I'm not arguing about how good he is. I'm just arguing about everybody in EU loves adapting.
yeah, because he's really good.
I think you watch. I think you watch a stream every day and just like, God, that guy's so hot. He's beautiful.
No, but we in EU here, we value quality. That's why our teams are winning.
Yeah, well, I still see Trifecta beating them 2-1.
Yeah, we'll see. Hey,
Call me crazy.
I will buy you a beer or something if they do. Somehow.
I just want to. I want to see more Chronos on Emilito. That's all I.
Yeah.
That's all I want energy to do.
So yeah. The other point we have is picking a best NA team. So, Sabo, I guess we can already say which one yours gonna be.
Yes. I don't think I need to say anything else. Trifecta is the best team from NA in this tournament, I believe. Luminosity struggles is just too apparent. And if Scary D doesn't have a big set, then it's Luminosity is just going to bow out 2-0 really quickly. It's not even going to be a set. Space Station Gaming, there's just too much. There's too many question marks of, is Rival going to show up and is Deathwalker going to be a thorn in the side? How does Final K deal with Deathwalker's pressure? How does Homie Pay perform? There's too many questions about the other 2 NA teams, and I think just like overall Trifecta is in the best position team wise to be able to find some wins here at Dreamhack, and I gotta ride with them as long as I can. I can see them beating Energy, and I can see them beating Dignitas. Just don't see them beating Obey. So I'm gonna take Obey 3-1 over Trifecta in the finals. But I'm still putting a lot of hope on Trifecta.
Yeah, I think they are the team most likely to perform well, right? I think this is different from them making it furthest, in my opinion, to some extent, right? They're going to be facing an Energy which I expect to do well this LAN, and I think they will lose with dignity, but with dignity, right? And I think on the other hand, if Space Station fights actually advances to the semis, it's gonna be based off of a weak Rival performance, which isn't gonna be a great performance to look back on for Space Station. And in the next set, I would expect them to be wiped completely by Obey then. So even if Trifecta don't make it furthest, I think they are going to be the team that will perform the best out of the NA teams. As weird as that may sound. So yeah, I'm also going to give it to Trifecta.
Oh yeah, I was about to say the same thing. I expect Space Station to make it the furthest in the tournament, but I expect Trifecta to be the best team, or the best NA team in the tournament.
Yeah.
Or what we already mentioned. Just because Rival is much weaker than NRG, in my eyes.
Good. So one thing we want to do is potentially preemptively crown an MVP, as stupid of an idea as that may be. So, what are yours?
Haven't we kind of done this already with the whole which team is or which
Yeah,
player is going
sort
to
of.
perform the best?
Sort of, yeah. So, should we just skip it or should we repeat ourselves? Depends.
I mean, it's too I can repeat ourselves for us. It's, Psycho and I believe it's going to be Captain Twig, while Roby thinks it's going to be adapting. So there you go.
Yeah.
Recap.
That was very well
if
done.
the MVP has to be on the winning team, then it
No,
will be
it doesn't.
Emilito. Like I thought so too, but like that's what it was at Worlds last year.
Okay.
Because Variety probably deserved MVP, and because he wasn't on the winning team, he didn't get it.
If MVP has to be on the winning team, then I was going to say Snoopy. No, in all realism, it should be Captain Twig. Because I do think they win the turn. I think Obey wins, so it's got to be Captain Twig if it's got to be a player on the winning team, it's got to be Captain Twig.
Yeah. Still, adapting. It's just, yeah. So, do you have anything else you want to discuss? I should really go soon, so please make it quick.
Oh, I think I forgot to apologize last week because it didn't pop into my mind, but I wasn't here for week 3 because my computer had issues and I couldn't get it fixed fast enough.
Yeah, it's no biggie. We did a good show, just the two of us, right, Sabo?
Yeah, I think we did. It was a lot of fun to discuss that. Was it? You weren't here for the Noble E United set, were you? That was the week you had computer issues. That one was a lot of fun to discuss.
Yeah, we went into pretty deep into it, honestly, I thought. And I was very upset with United. And I'm sure that came across a bit as well.
I think we both were, but I think their response in the following 2 weeks, I think we won't go into E United right now because they're not at Dreamhack, but I think the results they had the last 2 weeks is what we expect from them going further. That their performance against Noble wasn't bad, but was still not what we expected from them. But we should be happy going further with how E United plays if they can continue to play like they did the final 2 weeks. I'm excited for the E United roster. I hope they don't make a change. Oh, do we want to report the change to Flashpoint?
No, we'll do that later on, as we go into relegations, honestly.
Okay.
So yeah, I think with that about wraps up the show for this week. It was obviously a special episode. We're obviously also going to upload these to YouTube and to SoundCloud as well on a later time. But for now, this was it from the Tuesday Night Smite podcast on a Saturday. Probably should have thought about that when naming our podcast, you know. But still, yeah, as I said, if you like this episode, make sure to check it out on YouTube or SoundCloud as well and leave us a like there as well. Yeah, and so you can subscribe to us there and follow us there as well if you want to be notified for future episodes. You can also follow our Twitter account. You can see it in the bottom left at Tuesday Night Smite for any updates as the week goes on about Dreamhack. I'm sure we're going to tweet out our official predictions as well. So yeah, thank you all for being here, for listening and watching to us rant for over 2 hours again. And yeah, thank you guys, Saigo and Sabo, for hosting this podcast with me, as you do usually. It's always an honor, as I'm sure I always say. And yeah, with those words, good night, good Smite.